done a lot of oils. You're an artist of that works in many mediums, and we've discussed the prints, or some of the prints, and that's been great. And we've got the oils that I'd like to talk about. There's one in particular that's interesting to me, the Long Long Road.
There's a big thing about that. It was there's a new society came up called the East Anglian Friends of the Royal Watercolour Society. They started it off. They've changed the name now. And I wanted to get in because I was more of a watercolorist than anything else then. So I hammered down to Cambridge to put in my painting. No, I found that you had to go and find out if you had any in. And then if they were rejected, you had to walk out with your tail between your legs. But 2 of mine went in and only 1 was rejected. So I was feeling really pleased. And I was driving. Now, it's much easier to drive out of a town than into it, isn't it? When you're coming into a town, you're looking for the place and you're looking to park.
Sure.
You've only got to see a road sort of vaguely pointing at Ipswich and you go up it. So I was feeling very carefree down that slope. And I saw this woman pushing this wheelchair. And the lad in it is like this, you know, and he's not right. I had just passed a pop concert starting, and there were fans streaming in, and it was going to be young. And I could immediately see that the mum was going to take this boy, you know, because she thought he's a teenager and he needs to see these kind of things. And it really hit me to see her. And I was thinking, when he was born, it was a new baby. And so I stopped thinking, and she's so tired, and I'm going to pick her up, push it for her. So I stopped and I looked around, and then I got this English thing about, oh, she might think I'm a man coming up to assault her or something, you know. Yeah. And I just let her go. And all the way home, I felt absolutely dreadful that I just, with this stupid sort of English, you know, we don't keep ourselves to ourselves. I should have just said, hey, and I pushed it all the way to the thing, leaving the car because it wasn't far. But no, I did that. So I was so horrified that I think the very next day I started painting that painting. And it was quite an emotional experience. You know, I'm really moved by that whole thing and have been ever since. And
but I think if, again, it just goes back to the notion that art is there for you to help alleviate your own emotions and perhaps frustrations, your own frustration with yourself on that day. But by creating that picture, that kind of helps you perhaps personally in a way.
It did help me. It did help me because I did something so that others might see it and realize, you know, this problem that exists. And it was just very difficult to deal with, especially as I was coming back pleased because I got 2 pictures into this big exhibition as I thought it. And you know,
it was a bittersweet moment.
It was very bittersweet, yeah. It was an anniversary of some sort of the First World War.
Sure.
And I've always thought, you know, in the trenches, you've got these guys. You can see some guys looking scared, can't you? And everything. Yeah. That was just a very simple tribute to the guys and a lament that, you know, people, you know, someone has bought. That relates to a picture you did, believe it or not. You won't believe this, right? I wanted to do another one on that basis, and what I was going to have was a mother with what from up to about the neck was a guy all in uniform ready to get shot or shoot somebody, and then the head was a baby's head. And you've done a picture with a baby's head on a fairly fully dressed person, haven't you?
That's right. Yes, I did. Yeah.
So I immediately was annoyed because I can't do that. Well, I don't suppose I would have done anyway, but that's what I wanted to do. So it's touching on that same thing, like, you know, these are someone the same as the guy in the wheelchair. Someone's brought someone up over all this time, and then you get a pink telegram saying, unfortunately, your son was killed in action. You know, that's it. Go and have a cup of tea and see what's on television. You know, the kind of thing. It's horrible, and anything I could do to stop that, I would. But you know, there you go. So that's what that was about.
I'm really enjoying our chat. Cheers.
This thing's going rather well.
Yeah. I'm massive fan of your work. Gotta say.
Nice. You're the only one.
Ships of the Desert, Charles. Tell me about that. I love that as an image, and I'd like to know more.
I'll tell you what it's about, believe it or not. My brother, when he was, when we were all young, and he studied Arabic at college, right? And so he was well up in all that business. And he told me that he went to Egypt, and he went to Saudi Arabia, and he said when he came back, because by that time Britain was no longer the great imperial power, he said, but they don't realize that. They've still got the most exaggerated ideas of what we could do if we happened to feel like it. You wouldn't think they would, but they were brought up on the British. If you were British, you walked through a town like Alexandria, and everyone had grovelled around. That was the way the world was. It wasn't good, wasn't bad. It was just the way the world was.
Sure.
But they didn't. He said they hadn't realised yet that we were not now what we were. And I began to sort of think to myself, I envisaged this guy on his camel, and he suddenly comes across this ship. It's the British Empire, basically, rotting in the desert. It's
a HMS Great Britain, isn't it? The HMS Great Britain. That's it.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's an exaggeration, but I thoroughly enjoyed doing that, and other people have liked that particular painting.
Dali-esque.
Dali-esque, yeah.
Is that
but the guy on the camel is looking and thinking, that's interesting. They're dawning on them that the world's changed. Oh, that's almost the same theme as Happy Town. That's what we used to do. All that junk would have been made by us at one time. We could make our own things. We haven't fallen into the trap of playing with money. If you see, I'm not. This sounds like I'm going to start talking about capitalists and crap like that. No, but I'm just saying that a nation ought to still retain the ability to make those sort of things. Happy Town was a bit more, it was a deeper sort of thing. The idea that there's something going on here that you can't quite figure out why it might be bad, but that on the other hand, it was something that seemed unwholesome was the word, and that's why I wanted the thing to look, it doesn't look wholesome to see this thing creeping over a boat and the boat going all weird. So that's but this one was just a more explicit statement. Here's a factory closed now with all this stuff thrown out in the yard, and there's no such thing anymore. Stuff.
Charles, you've also ventured into the world of ceramics. Is that something that coincided with the prints and the oils, or did this come later? When did ceramics become?
It came almost at the same time.
Right.
It came at the same time. One of the things about it is that my paintings are not abstract, but I love painting abstract. So you must have seen them. I mean, they're all just round here. I'll bring one round just for fun.
Why not? Let's go rogue.
Look, your incense in there.
Yes.
And burn it, and it all comes out through this chimney, and it's great fun.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to get rid of this one. I liked it so much, but that's not my normal thing. But
as a keeper,
this is a fairly simple little thing, right? But it's painting these kind of abstract patterns on things.
Yeah.
That satisfies me. I love doing that. It's not figurative art, is it? You can't say that is anything, but it's just a strange pattern. And I make these. I'll tell you an interesting thing. It's how I do it. I wrote a program at some point, which generated shapes, and it generated, for example, you could adapt it to different things, and I adapted it to. One time I adapted it to wallpaper and things, and you could control it to some extent. So it's very hard to explain, but this is a good example. This shape was generated really by this computer program that I created, or if it wasn't, lots of them are. And when I this is just the shape. So when I've got, at the time when I did this, I could get just a profile, so that would just be a drawing going up the side and around. That's all you had. And I gave it to my son Edgar, who was hot. He did something like animation and model and 3D modeling. So you could immediately create a computer version of that you could rotate and things. So, and then I have a 3D printer. So I printed it in plastic, right? And then I took it along to my ceramics thing, used it to make a mold, and I can now turn these out however I feel like it. So a computer invented that really.
So Charles, obviously you work in watercolors, and maybe before I ask you about a specific picture, we spoke about your ceramics, and you were saying that kind of, it all came around at the same time. Your artistic.
Yeah, it did. But watercolor was the earliest. I did watercolor before I did anything else. You know, because I thought, I'm going to do painting. I'll go and buy a paint box. And I went into a shop and bought a paint box, and it was watercolor. I didn't even know what the hell it mattered. There's poster color, isn't there? All sorts of things. And I didn't realize it was all supposed to be very delicate. And I used to draw paintings that really, you can, one thing you cannot do is sort of socially conscious art in watercolor. It just doesn't work. I've tried and tried. It doesn't work. I don't know why. Watercolor attracts you by the paint. I don't know why, the light and the paint. So anyway, I love watercolor, but I've never done anything in it that I would offer as any kind of sort of commentary on anything.
Is it the gentleness of the tones that stop it from being a stark message, maybe? I don't know.
So the paint is so free, and I mean, like in oil painting, you can paint it on and you think, oh, I've messed that up, so you just paint it out and it's done. And you're never lost. You're never lost with prints either. Well, I suppose the prints, if you don't like what you've done, you chuck it away. But with watercolor, you've only got to get it wrong once and it's dead. So you have to work quickly. You have to, and you have to treasure the paper. You know, like I'm finding it harder to do. I mean, I'm getting on years now, and you've got to be you've got to be quite dynamic. Do you know what I mean when you're doing it?
Yeah.
You just press on. You know.
You have a little bit more scope in oil.
Say, where is that?
Yeah. Should we do that?
Having the clue. Having the clue.
Well, that's good.
I've been on holidays various places, and I came back with this slide which had that on it, but I didn't do anything with it. And years later, I found it, and I thought, where was that? I have no idea what that was. I love that piece.
It's great. Yeah, I like it, which is why
I remember looking up at it. I know just when I was outside a cafe, which was, you know, the bière, s'il vous plaît type cafe, and I looked up and saw this magnificent place. I quickly clicked it off, but I've no idea where it was. Might have been anywhere.
Hey, we might be able to find it. I mean, it's quite a landmark, no?
It's very striking, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that one. So I needed to discuss that. Well, Charles, thanks a lot. I've really enjoyed this evening.
Enjoyed the conversation.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Charles.